After the end of Demon Slayer Season 3, the Swordsmith Village had to be moved to an entirely new location. As time passed, and all of our characters began to heal, Ubuyashiki called a new Hashira meeting to discuss the events that are likely to come now that Muzan and his demons have found one of their bases. During the meeting, Sanemi tells Muichiro and Mitsuri that he envies them because he wishes he could run into upper moons, while Mitsuri says it's not really so common to just bump into them despite how frequently it's been happening lately. The two Hashira from Season 3 tell everyone that they feel okay, but aren't at full strength yet, while Gyu chimes in, saying that if they lose any more Hashira, the Demon Slayers will be in trouble. But you two defeating 2 upper moons without losing anyone is insane and amazing, he adds. Shinobu, worried on the side, wonders how Mitsuri and Muichiro managed to heal so quickly from this encounter since battles against upper moons are usually much more deadly. Lastly, Gyomei tells them that the master probably wants to wait to discuss all of this. Finally, instead of Ubuyashiki himself, his wife Amane enters the room, and the meeting officially begins. Amane tells the Hashira about the Demon Slayer marks in the past, and Muichiro is pretty shocked to hear what she's saying. Sanemi points out that this is a pretty big thing to just now be finding out about, questioning why it's been kept secret for so long. However, Amane says the marks haven't been seen for generations. They do know, apparently, once one appears, they continue to appear in others, all resonating with the original marked one. This is where Muichiro steps up and says he didn't realize he was marked, but things did feel different. He explains that if everyone listens to him, they'll all be able to awaken marks of their own. Muichiro later tells the Hashira that he thinks his mark awakened due to a combination of 2 different factors. First, he says his heart rate was over 400 beats per minute, which is insanely high but not unthinkable for their strange, breath-controlling swordsman. On top of that, Muichiro says that his body temperature went above 39 degrees, which reminded him of a time when he had a really bad fever. From here, everyone decides that they need to unlock this power as well, especially as Amane explains to all of them how things are going to be getting much more dangerous with Muzan's changes finally underway. So, in an effort to get everyone up to the level of power that they need to be for the final arc, everyone agrees to undergo a vicious training course to unlock their marks, all because of how Tanjiro and the others awakened their Demon Slayer marks. This will involve our main characters training every single Hashira, which is a rare gift since usually Hashira are too busy to train anyone other than their direct students. The first step along that journey is special training of the Sound Hashira, Uzui Tengen. Tengen survived the events of the Red Light District arc, with one of his eyes missing but without any real injuries that would prevent him from practicing combat. However, his Hashira trial is a test of endurance and stamina, as Uzui pretty much makes you start running and doesn't tell you when you're supposed to stop. To make matters worse, if you collapse and can't continue running, he just beats you with his wooden sword to get you to stand up until you break beyond your limits, which you have to do during the run because afterward he still expects you to take part in more grueling basic physical fitness workouts. And that's all before he sends you to the next Hashira, Mitsuri Kanroji, and her challenge from hell. After doing Uzui Tengen's training, you have the choice to go to either Muichiro or Mitsuri's training. Mitsuri starts off seeming like a cakewalk, but it might be the most torturous training of all the training regimens. First off, it's important to know that Mitsuri herself was trained by Rengoku in what was described as brutal training. So, you'd be put off when you walk into her dojo and she has a nice breakfast with you filled with pancakes, butter, honey, and tea. This is all a cover, though, as soon after, Mitsuri expects everyone to get into ballet clothes, and everyone starts doing classic ballet training using various poses and learning how to twirl ribbons, which is also a technique used by professional football players to become more nimble. But the worst part is when Mitsuri makes you do a split and forcefully stretches your legs apart, especially since most people doing this are men, and I don't think Mitsuri has really considered that at all. After Uzui, Muichiro, and Mitsuri, I'm worried that we're about to get into the rough section, as when you walk into Obanai Iguro's dojo, you're met with muffled screams in a room filled with tied-up demon hunters in all sorts of positions, like some sort of twisted game of fit through the hole. In Obanai's course, you're supposed to masterfully swing your sword and tighten accurate sword forms repeatedly, while not cutting any of the tied-up demon hunters. However, once you start to get the hang of it after hitting a few demon hunters with your wooden sword by accident a few times, Iguro dives into the maze and starts taking attacks at you with his serpent breathing that allows the strikes to come at you from really odd angles and weave right through and in between those who were tied up. This training normally would take at least 10 days of pure pain. However, after all the other training we've done, like Tanjiro, it probably only takes 4 days to land an attack on Iguro's Haori, letting him pass us off to the next Hashira, who I don't think is going to give us a break, considering it's Sanemi, the Wind Hashira. And just look at him. We've gone through more than half of the Hashira so far. But next up we have Sanemi, the Wind Hashira. And sorry folks, but it's time for true pain. Immediately upon entering Sanemi's dojo, you're welcomed with a horrific scene of him just beating the ever-living life out of his students endlessly, like there's some frustration he's trying to take out on you. During day 1 of Tanjiro's training, Zenitsu and Sanemi, the Wind Hashira, spend the entire day just attacking them repeatedly and endlessly. He goes extra hard on Tanjiro, but generally, for everyone, you can expect to get knocked around until you either vomit everywhere or just faint and eventually crawl to your room. This is supposed to continue until you eventually develop the skills to stop getting bashed around. However, because of a huge brawl that broke out between Zenitsu, Tanjiro, and the Shizuga brothers, Tanjiro actually failed Sanemi's course and was banned from ever approaching him again due to just how severely the Wind Hashira began to hate Tanjiro after this. But the final boss that stands at the end of the training is none other than the strongest Hashira himself, Gyome Himejima, the Rock Pillar, or Stone Hashira, as he's known in the fandom. When Tanjiro and Zenitsu reach Gyome, they see that he's in a pit of fire, barefoot, on his toes, kneeling in the flames, hands clasped in prayer, as he holds up 2 giant tree logs that have big boulders tied to each end. Gyome looks up to our boys, telling them, "Welcome to his training ground." So, he tones it down a bit, but even his training program would still destroy me in every way. First off, you need to sit under a waterfall and try to stand up as the waves crash down on you and try to send you under. Afterwards, without a break, you have to strap 3 massive logs onto your shoulders all at once and carry them up the mountain and then back down. Finally, you have to push a giant boulder with sharp edges through a town. But as much as Tanjiro and Inosuke struggle, interestingly enough, by the time Inosuke reaches this point, he completes every step easily. Next, we'll explain why. Gyome watches Zenitsu, Tanjiro, and Inosuke all go through the Stone Hashira's gruesome training, but since it's a final step, it isn't compulsory, meaning at any time they want to quit, they can. But none of them are quitters. They all stick through this, and this is why Inosuke was able to get through it like cake. It is due to the strength training he received from his boar mother, which put him through such intense practices that by the time Inosuke reached the final boss of training, he was already very used to such difficulty. And that sums up the Hashira training, and how we became able to awaken the Demon Slayer mark. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.